Hello, dear listener, and welcome back to Sitcom Showdown. I think it's episode 105. Is it, Steve?
I don't know. I haven't checked.
Oh, you slacker. Anyway, it's my turn, and this was meant to be a Halloween episode, so more in a minute on that. But I've chosen ALF, the 1980s Earth-based alien sitcom. Now, I've got written down here Season 2, Episode 1. Yes. All right, anyway, let's talk about that before I elaborate on my justifications as to why it was chosen. ALF, for anyone who doesn't know, is an American sitcom that aired on NBC from September 1986 up to March 1990, which 1986 to 1990 coincides really neatly, Steve, with the entire time I was at high school. Now, that's just when it was broadcast in the US of A. So, let's say there might have been a year's gap before we got it, probably. I don't know.
Possibly.
And I don't want to pinpoint your age or anything, but you would have been in your final year of high school.
Yeah.
And so you would have been entering a phase of life, possibly, where you had other things on your mind, like exams and what am I going to do, and ALF might have been a bit too childish for your tastes at the time. But I will ask you about your memories of ALF soon. But the series premise is ALF is an alien who crash lands in the garage of the suburban middle-class Tanner family in California. And rather than them turning ALF into the authorities, the Tanners hide him, and the show deals with all the hilarious misunderstandings that ensue as the extroverted ALF navigates human culture and constantly puts himself in danger of being caught, often annoying the hell out of the Tanner parents while the kids love him to death.
We're going to see some of that in the one we're talking about.
Sure are. Now, the episode premise, as opposed to the series premise I just gave you, in this one, ALF does mess up one too many times. He destroys this cherished and valuable painting in the living room. He gets sent to live in the garage, but he's very lonely out there and he's contrite. And so ALF strikes a deal that if he can behave for a week, he can stay in the house. But if not, he has to live in exile in the garage permanently.
Forever.
We emphasize permanently, yes. And ALF's so keen to do a good job on his week of good behaviour that he takes it a little bit too far and becomes the Tanner's butler for a week.
I prefer the term manservant.
Yes, that's right. Not in the Blackadder use of the word. When he goes to the doctor about his manservant. Anyhow, so Steve, do you remember seeing ALF and the phenomenon it was in the 80s when it first came out, or were you too busy being cool?
No. Oh, well, I was never cool.
Oh,
but I do remember watching ALF, and it must have been huge. Because this wouldn't have been on the ABC, so it would have been on commercial TV, which is, would have been rare for me to watch sitcoms on commercial TV back in the day. But yes, I definitely watched it, and I remember this episode as well, so there you go. It's quite a trip down memory lane.
It is quite amazing, because I didn't remember this at all.
What, ALF, you mean?
No, just this episode sort of thing. I remember the theme tune very strongly, and we'll talk about that too.
So I haven't looked at audience numbers or which TV shows it was on in Australia or anything like that, but I think it was huge. Is that correct? Or
I remember it being huge. It would have been an enormous sensation. Yeah.
So this came after E.T., right? So it kind of caught a bit of, I don't know how far they were apart, but obviously they took the idea of E.T. and put a comedic spin on it.
Totally. But ALF's a bit cheekier.
It was a good choice. A bit cheekier than E.T., yeah.
Yes, well, I'll explain what led up to me selecting this episode, Steve.
Right,
so,
okay.
as you know, I had initially sent you a completely different episode, and that was one called... initially I checked out actual Halloween episodes of ALF, and there was one where... Because he's never been out and about amongst humans, he's always stuck in the house. But in this one, he's so desperate to do it that he disobeys orders again, and he pretends he's a kid dressed up in a suit.
He goes out trick-or-treating.
Buttons on his and he attends the Halloween party at the house and starts trash talking Willie's boss and all these sorts of things. And he's the life of the party, because he is the life of the party.
Yep.
But then that wasn't good enough, I thought. And so then I found one called La Cucaracha, in which a small alien cockroach that came out of ALF's ship, when they sprayed it to kill it, it fed on the bug spray and got exponentially bigger to the point where it was 7 foot tall and stuff. And what I remember telling you at the time was it was chock full of these sci-fi references So it was a lot like Doctor Who, The Ark in Space with the Wirren, not only in design of the monster, but the sound effects. And the music, the tense music stings were very Red Dwarfian before Red Dwarf. But the Red Dwarf music, I don't know if they got it from ALF or what the deal is. Or just, the little tension stings. It was so rich for... These are cultural references, like when the cockroach came splintering through the door like Jack Nicholson
in Shining.
But then I thought, but it's not very funny. It's not a very good ALF episode. It's got cool stuff in it and it's clever. It's just not funny. So I thought what I'll do is I'll select my favourite and what I thought was a very funny ALF episode and hope that the extremely tenuous ALF's an alien, therefore we can cram this into Halloween. I think this episode sums up ALF, the series, in a nutshell, so that's why I picked it. It's very good. I think also, having now watched about 15 episodes of ALF, rewatched, I think it so much depends, Steve, on who the writer is. And some people capture ALF brilliantly and other writers don't. So, it's luck of the draw. Anyhow, I want to share, before we get into the actors and the characters themselves, I just want to share a bit about the history of the show, because it's got its own set of unique challenges, and I'm sure you read all about this.
No.
In fact, maybe I could hand it to you. Do you know who the puppeteers were and what the deal was with the sets and stuff?
No, but I was, if I had to guess, I'd say that would be one of the things where you obviously got a cast who are standing up some of the time, and how do you work that in with a puppet that's, waist high or something like that?
Yeah. So being a show with hand-operated puppets, ALF was technically very difficult, extremely demanding on the actors, and a lot of the actors weren't very happy, and by season 4 they were ready to kill. But we didn't see any of that as the audience, and it worked okay. But they all mentioned high levels of tension on the set. Max Wright, the dad, said he despised supporting a technically demanding inanimate object that received all the good lines of dialogue. Fair enough.
I heard that on the wrap of the final episode, he just walked off.
Didn't say goodbye to anyone?
Didn't say goodbye, just walked.
Screw you guys, I'm going home. Yeah.
Wow. Sure, I made lots of money and this was extremely popular, but I'm out here.
Yes. It would have been a trying time. Like the set was built on a platform that was 4 foot above the ground level.
Oh, okay.
So that the puppeteers had space to move around underneath. But then what happened was that in order for them to come through the floor behind the furniture and do stuff, there were holes in the set floor, which the actors had to be extremely careful of, because if you fell down one of those, it could really hurt yourself. Yeah, it took much longer to film. They couldn't have a studio audience, which I might discuss later. And so you don't get that adrenaline of feeding off the audience.
Yep.
And it would have just been a grind. But I mean, the final product made people happy, so that's the way it goes. Yes, anyway, Paul Fusco, or Fusco, or it's Fusco. Yeah, he operated ALF from underneath. Well, he did ALF's right arm, or ALF's, and also mouth. Then you had another puppeteer, Lisa, who would handle ALF's left arm. And then you had a guy with a remote control doing the ears and the eyebrows and all this sort of stuff. And, you might have to do a lot of retakes if they didn't get it all perfect.
Yep.
And in addition to that, Mr. Frushko, he's doing the lines with the headset.
Yep.
Very tricky. Yes, so the third puppeteer on the remote control was Bob Fapiano. So that's cool. Characters and actors, Steve. So, as we've just discussed, the character of Gordon Alf Shumway, for that is Alf's real name. It was, as I said, performed and voiced by Paul Fushko, who was also the producer and the creator. So he had a lot to do. Lisa Buckley and the aforementioned Bob were assistant puppeteers. But when they did the full body Alf stuff, which happened from time to time, that was a dude in a costume, and that was Mishu Mazaros. And apologies to him if I've pronounced his name wrong. But yeah, Alf the character, or Gordon, as we can call him, is an alien from the planet Melmac, Steve.
Yes, I remember.
Yeah.
He was from Melmac.
Now, we've got this off YouTube, and YouTube are brilliant for Alf episodes, and he has recorded commentaries for the show in character as Alf. And I'm not sure if that's really cool or really stupid.
Well, it kind of slants the commentary in a certain direction, doesn't it? Because you're not going to have a very technical kind of this is how we filmed the show type of a thing.
Yeah. Did you check out any of the
commentary?
Yeah,
I listened to half of one episode.
Okay, that's a resounding endorsement. Let's move on to Willie.
No, I like all the
Yeah, oh, okay.
I like all the dry technical stuff. So
Excellent.
yes, wasn't my kind of audio commentary, and I do love an audio commentary.
Yeah. Who doesn't?
How did you find them?
Yeah, I didn't dig it too much.
Mm.
So I tuned into one and didn't tune into more.
So he says on this one, "Oh, this is the episode I injured myself in," referring to an incident that happens later.
Oh, yeah, right.
We'll get to towards the end of the episode. So it's things like that. It's kind of funny, but at the same time, it's not what I'm looking for.
So if you're getting the Blu-ray, you'd want 3 streams of commentaries: the highly technical one, the one with him in character, and the one with him out of character.
Yep.
Good call. Right, Willie Tanner, portrayed by Max Wright, is the father of the Tanner family, and he's a social worker by trade, but he's also an amateur radio enthusiast and a computer nerd. So it was that, him doing his shortwave radio signals and stuff, that Alf followed them, and that's how he managed to crash into the Tanner home. But the actor Max Wright, he's no longer with us, sadly, Steve. He died in 2019 from lymphoma. But his sitcom resume before and after was pretty solid. So afterwards, he did 49 episodes of The Norm Show with Norm Macdonald in the late 90s. And previous to Alf, he did 26 episodes of Buffalo Bill in the early 80s, sort of 83, 84.
What was that?
Well, that was a radio sitcom about a radio announcer. So, if you were an idiot, you could call it Frasier before Frasier.
Hang on. It was a sitcom about a radio announcer, or wasn't a sitcom on the radio?
No, sorry. Yes,
sitcom.
My bad. Yes, It was a TV sitcom about a radio person. Yeah, I get you now. Thank you.
I'm with you.
So moving on to Kate Tanner, played by Anne Shadeen. Now, she is the mother of the Tanner family, and in addition to her mother, who also plays a role in the series, so her and Willie, Kate and Willie were like flower children of the 60s.
Yeah.
In the same way, I guess, that with Family Ties, Michael J. Fox's parents were hippies and all that sort of gear. Anyway, Anne Shadeen herself, she took about 10 years off acting when Alf finished, because I think in the last season or the season before, she just had her first child.
Right, okay.
And so when Alf wrapped up, I guess, she deserved a bit of a break, if you can call looking after an infant a break, which maybe you can't. And so 10 years off she had before she got back into acting. But
so there was a season, was there, where they had to work around...
They did.
Like cut, the whole thing where you cut above the waist or whatever, so you avoid the bump and...
No, it was all plot, so it was worked in.
Oh,
so
right.
They had a third child.
Ah.
Yeah. I can't remember the name of the kid, but the Tanner family had a third child.
Didn't the Bundys have a third?
No, they did, and they didn't, because the whole time Peg was pregnant, and that was a brilliant season, because Al was tearing his hair out, but it was all a dream at the end of that. Or a nightmare, we could say, because Al was not a happy camper. Let's not get started on Married with Children. But prior to Alf, Anne Shadeen had guest spots on Cheers, Three's Company, and a lot of non-sitcom shows like The Bionic Woman and The $6 Million Man. Let's move on to Lynn Tanner, Steve, played by Andrea Elson. Now, she's the oldest daughter of the Tanner family. She's one of Alf's best friends since he arrived on Earth. And Andrea Elson, I find all the cast good. She's great. And I think I'm looking at it through the lens of a, entering puberty sort of teenager, is that, she would have been 4 or 5 years older than me. And so, like me, and I'm sure a lot of my friends had crushes on her and stuff like that sort of thing. So you go, oh, she's lovely. So still looking through that childhood lens. There you go. But as far as acting goes, she had roles on, just guest spots on Who's the Boss?
Yep.
Parker Lewis Can't Lose. Married with Children, Steve. And Mad About You. So that's pretty cool. Yeah. So I think in real life, she's about 3-4 years older than yourself.
Right.
Anyway, there you go. Just
a youngster then.
Context. Yeah, the youngster. Yeah, that's right. The other child, Brian Tanner, played by Benji Gregory, he's nicknamed B by Alf. I like it when he calls him B. It's cool. It also reminds me of a way of Bud being called Grandmaster B. Anyhow, so the character, young Brian, he forms like an instant friendship with Alf, and he's a big reason they kept him. Because the kid's saying, don't let them take him away,
It's
Mum,
like
Dad.
the puppy that comes into your yard.
Yeah, can we keep it?
Yeah.
And it's very heartwarming, how they hang out together in this show. I felt like season 1's great for seeing them two just doing their thing. But I thought the kid was fairly natural. Like, he was not in my opinion, a slick or polished child actor.
Yep.
You can see some child actors and you go, they've got skills. And I wouldn't put him in that category, but it was very genuine, and I buy it. good for the role. But anyway, he went on to be in some episodes of Punky Brewster and other stuff. But he did leave acting to join the Navy.
That's quite the change of direction.
Well, it is, yeah. Now, there's characters, Steve-O, which we don't see in this episode, but I wanted to cover them because they give us a lot of fertile ground to discuss things. Did you look into any of the other characters?
Nah.
Okay, Steve, you're going to like this because it's Seinfeld heavy, so strap yourself in. Mrs. Rachel Ochmonek. Now, in this episode, we see the next-door neighbour, Trevor
Yes.
Ochmonek. What a cool surname, by the way. The next-door neighbour, now, Mrs. Ochmonek, Raquel. Did I say Rachel before? Sorry, I meant to say Raquel. But she's played by Liz Sheridan. Now, you would instantly recognise her as Mrs. Seinfeld.
Right,
So,
okay.
Jerry's mum.
Classic.
She's great. But in this, she is a bit of a nosy person spying on the neighbours, and she, spreads rumours and all this. But her sitcom pedigree is incredible. So aside from the 4 main Seinfeld cast members who were in every season, she's the only other actor to have been in every season of Seinfeld. And her first serious boyfriend was James Dean before he was famous.
Whoa.
And she wrote a book about their relationship.
Yep.
Quite amazing. She died at the age of 93 just last year. So she's got a really interesting history all of herself. And the other actress I want to talk about who features in a hell of a lot of episodes of ALF is Kate's mum, who her and Alf hate each other and they don't get on at all.
Yep.
And there's some really excellent... They make a lot of hay with the fractious relationship. Anyway, her name's Dorothy Halligan, Kate's mum and the kid's grandmother. So she's played by a lady called Anne Miara or Anne Mira. She's referred to in this episode when Alf is trash-talking the horrible thing that she bought them. That's Ben Stiller's mum, the wife of Jerry Stiller. And as you know, Jerry Stiller is George's dad.
Yep.
So in a way...
Wow, there's some interesting connections.
Yeah, dude, it's very Seinfelded up. So she is, in a way, George's mum in real life. It doesn't work, but go with me here.
I'm just trying to piece that together.
Yeah. So Jerry Stiller played George's dad, and this is his real-life wife. So I imagine she was on the set of Seinfeld a few times, chilling with Jerry. So 2 Seinfeld mums there. I thought that was pretty cool. Anyway, her pedigree is the best of all of them. She did hundreds...
Make it sound like a prize pooch or something.
So she did 52 episodes of Archie Bunker's Place in the early 1980s. She did 10 episodes of The King of Queens in the early 2000s. And, of course, she was in some sort of soap. And as you know, soaps in the 50s and 60s, they just did squillions of episodes. Yep. So she did something like 300 episodes of one of these things.
Well,
but she and Jerry had their own show. Anyway, if anyone wants to look up Anne Miara or Liz Sheridan, then, it makes interesting reading.
Very good.
Oh, and we will now take in the theme tune and a clip, and then we can get into talking about this episode.
Yep.
You're staying in the garage until we say you can get out. Did you act this way in your parents' house?
No, I lived in their garage. Oh, sure. Draw parallels.
Just think about what I've said, okay?
Willie, please. You can't leave me out here. They're none of the comforts of home.
Well, all right, you can bring something out from the house.
Can it be something that answers to, hey, Lucky? Just a thought. Wait. I want to ask you something. It's important.
What? Bye, Alf.
Oh, no, wait. No, I know what I was going to ask you. Instead of me wasting time learning how to behave, couldn't I just suck up to Kate?
First thing we have to address, Steve, as we go into the synopsis here, is the theme tune. You had some comments. I totally agreed with you.
Well, it's just lovely and upbeat, and it's got a bit of a funkiness to it with a slapping bass and all this sort of stuff.
Yeah.
So.
Every bass player
catchy
on the planet would just be going, man, that's brilliant. They did change it in later seasons. Not as good, in my opinion, but there you go. Anyway, so yeah, the ALF theme tune, it gets you. Okay, to kick off this second season, Steve, specifically the 21st of September 1987, it begins with Alf showing young Brian how to play Skleen ball. But instead of using the standard gear that one uses on Alf's planet in Skleen ball, they had to make do. Anyway.
So the ALF wiki has a whole page dedicated to Skleen ball.
What do they say?
Essentially what you just said.
Oh, bum. I was hoping you could tell me
it's not
what
like,
a Skleen ball is.
It wasn't pages and pages long or anything like that, but just the fact that they had one.
Yeah, Skleen ball, right? So they're using this tin of anchovies and some laundry baskets. And Kate comes in and she's like, who dumped all my nice clean washing all over the floor? And Alf instantly says, it was Brian.
Yeah.
And Brian goes, but Mum, it was Alf that told me to. And Alf just goes, it's not nice to rat on your friends, Brian.
Which he's just done.
Ah, man. Yes, talk about a double standard. Bloody hell. But anyway, so in demonstrating Skleen Bowl, Alf launches this tin of anchovies. It goes flying across the living room and damages the painting, ripping a big old hole in it. And Kate's very upset. So Alf's in trouble is the bottom line of all this.
It was funny because she was kind of consoling herself and saying, oh, look, I think we might be able to fix this up, etc., etc. And then you just hear the whoosh and the next tin goes through it, making an even bigger hole in a different spot.
What's cool in this opening line of dialogues, Kate says Alf's ruined her $1,000 painting. Anyway, he goes, wow, maybe it's the frame that makes it look cheap. This is bad form, Steve, because he's just damaged her painting twice. He shouldn't be slagging it off after he's just damaged it.
And digging himself deeper into the hole.
That's exactly right. So that was what the pre-credit sequence. So even the plot's all set up now. I should mention, Steve, that with that him ratting on Brian and then telling Brian not to rat on his friends, this gives you some very quick character info showing that Alf will sell his best friend down the river, but then lecture his friend for doing the very same thing. It's not very nice. Yes, anyway, he gets chucked out into the garage. So we go to the credits and then we come back and Alf is now being escorted to the garage by Willie. You would have heard some of this in the clip, but Willie tells Alf that you just can't keep doing things and then saying sorry and then expecting that an apology is going to be enough to reset everything and everything's cool. Alf wonders why there's so many rules, and Willie kind of explains to Alf that without rules,
chaos.
In life and for the house, it's chaos. And he tells Alf there has to be a change in behaviour from him. But as you heard, Alf just wants to take the shortcut by sucking up to Kate. He doesn't want to do the hard work of changing his own behaviour. Anyway, I think this could all be a lesson to kids that started in the 80s acting like Alf or Bart Simpson and started misbehaving because Alf does it. That maybe, if you can't just apologise and expect that to fix everything. But anyway, the funny bits I like is that Alf had to live with his parents in the garage for doing this very same thing. And he tries the kids' bedtime stalling tactic of going, I want to ask a question. Now, if you can get 1 minute extra out of your parents by manipulating them instead of going to bed.
Well, just extend that bedtime.
Yeah.
5 minutes, 10 minutes, it's a win, right?
What's your question? Yes, anyway. So, we cut ahead to the middle of the night in the next scene when Kate gets up for a drink or something. She goes through the living room and notices it's completely empty. There's just a rug on the floor. She thinks they've been robbed, and so she's going, Willie! And he staggers out of bed and comes in, and they just go, we've been robbed. But then they hear music blasting out of the garage, and they realise Alf's taken all their stuff out to the garage. He's crammed all the couches and everything in there. So they go out to the garage to confront Alf. Now, Willie's quite angry at this point, and he walks in, and he's holding the lone cushion that Alf left on the floor, and Alf goes, oh, how nice, a housewarming gift, thank you. It just snatches it out of Willie's hand, which I thought was hilarious.
Yeah, that was really funny.
Anyway, that was really good. So I think we should have a clip.
Oh, hi. Oh, a housewarming gift. How nice.
Who told you you could bring this furniture out here?
Willie.
I did not.
You said I could bring something from the house.
I said you could bring something, not everything.
Now, in all fairness, you did not make that point clear.
He did bring everything.
Oh, I didn't take that hideous Statue of Liberty clock.
That clock was a gift from my mother.
Did I say hideous? I meant lovely. As lovely as your mother. That must be the microwave. brisket, anyone?
Forget the brisket! Alf, I want you to take everything back into the house tonight. And I emphasize the word everything.
Don't know if you noticed that the song which Alf is rocking out to when they go into the garage is different on the audio commentary than it is on the other, like the proper episode on YouTube.
Right.
So there was some kind of a deal around the, what do you call it?
Like a rights
Getting
thing?
the rights to... I still don't understand how that works. Like, if you've got it in the TV show, you can't... Obviously, they paid for it to go into the TV show.
Mm-hmm.
But you'd have to pay for it a second time to put it onto the DVD?
Yeah, that's interesting,
Something
isn't
like
it?
that. It's weird.
Was
Anyway.
it a recognisable tune on the commentary?
Well, I thought... Yeah, it was. It was... Stop in the Name of Love.
Oh, okay.
So, yes, a recognisable
By
one.
Elephant Head?
No.
That's a Young Ones reference, everybody.
Oh, there's going to be lots of Young Ones references.
Oh, yes. Okay. Should I continue or are we going to... No, okay, I'll just continue. Pull me up if you need to.
I don't know. You haven't mentioned the fact that Willie goes to sit down in the armchair and Alf admonishes him saying, "Hey, Willie, don't sit there. That's my chair."
Yeah.
When it's in the house, it's Willie's chair, but when it's in the garage, it's Alf's chair.
Yeah. Anyway, Alf begs them not to go, and he admits that he does just have to be around people because, as we know, Alf's an extrovert. Anyway, he doesn't want to be alone. But he just says, "Listen, just hear me out. Let's negotiate a bit." And so we get the stalling tactic again. And, he's just to keep them there in his company for a minute longer. So Kate gives him 1 minute, and she's starting to count it down. And he goes, "What are you, Mission Control?"
Yeah, this is a classic.
It's a brilliant line.
So he's just continuing to dig himself deeper into the hole. He's already upset them in the middle of the night.
It's like he's deliberately trying to provoke them in every way possible.
Yep.
But I do like it. Anyway, here the deal is struck. So if Alf can behave himself without incident for an entire week, he can stay in the house with the family. And he does promise to be on his best behaviour. And Kate says, "Fine, but if you mess up, your history." And Alf's like, "Excellent." And he gestures a bit too wildly, though, in his happiness. And he knocks over the vase he stole from the house. And it just smashes to smithereens. Yep. And he goes, "The week hasn't started yet, right?"
Yeah.
Which is very cool. I really liked this entire scene. Now, Steve, one aspect of it, do you think, as a parent, that this scene was true to life with the delaying tactics and the...
Absolutely.
Yeah?
Yep. I've got in my notes later that he's so childlike because of these kind of things. But you missed one of the best lines from that scene where, Kate's making her way towards the door and Alf begging, pleading with them, saying, "I'm a people person now. I need to be around people. So you've got to stay with me or let me go back in there with you." And Kate says to Willie, "But he's got our furniture and our brisket, and now he's after us."
Yeah. He wants it all, doesn't he?
He wants everything.
Because Willie, what did he sort of
He was
goes,
wavering.
"Oh, I'll stay with him for a few minutes." She goes, "No, he's got our furniture." Ah, that's fantastic. So the next morning, Kate and Willie emerge from their room to find everything back in place in the living room. The painting is fixed. Everything is super clean. And Alf greets them through the serving hatch. And he's wearing a bow tie and a white shirt. And he's putting on his very formal accent with sir and ma'am and all that sort of gear. And the kids come in. And everyone's going, "Oh, I can't believe how clean the house is. This is incredible." And, of course, to Kate, who does all the cleaning, she's like, "Well, it's not that great."
Yeah.
And also the breakfast smells incredible and it looks really good and everything's set up there. And Alf's now making Kate look pretty ordinary, as I said, by comparison. And I found all of that very funny and I think it deserves a clip.
Alf cleaned the whole house, and he made us this wonderful breakfast.
Tastes good. Better than that stinky stuff Mom usually makes, huh, Bri?
Uh-huh. Wait a minute. I didn't think Alf was allowed in the house.
That was yesterday. Today's our butler.
If you don't mind, madam, I prefer the word manservant. Helps keep me in my place.
A manservant wouldn't be making meals for them, right?
Well, I've never watched Downton Abbey, Steve-o, so elucidate and eliminate.
Well, a butler or a manservant, no, they wouldn't be making the meals.
No, they give orders to the people making the meals?
Yeah, that's right. They would come down and hand out the orders to say, we're having...
The master and the mistress would like such and such this morning. Yep.
Toast and salmon or...
Yeah,
I don't know.
Fair enough. I think, the Butlers Union should have got in touch with the...
You're doing too much, Alf.
Yeah, you're making us look bad.
Yep.
What's
Even
going
if
on?
it's only for a week.
Yeah. At this point in the episode, it's the usual thing where Mr. Okamonic comes over. So this happens all the time. Alf has to hide when people come over, so off he goes. Normally they have to say, Alf, you get in there now, but because he's on his best behaviour, he's already gone.
Yep.
So that's a subtle difference. Trevor says how amazing the newly painted fence looks. And Max sort of does a double take and he strolls over to the fence and he goes, oh my God, that does look amazing. And he's like super pleased. It's brilliant acting from Max Wright. He's really good. So he has no idea about this and he is gobsmacked. And so then they have to sort of spin Trevor some fib about how they've got temporary help at the house. Because Brian said...
He puts his foot in it.
Yeah, that's right. Mr. Ockmonic, though, as usual, you would have noticed, Steve, he helps himself to a coffee.
Yeah, I've got this.
Grabs the stuff.
He's
grabs
smoking
the
a cigar.
Yeah. Strolls in with a cigar. Pours a cup of coffee, grabs a banana.
Grabs the banana and casually starts eating it.
But he's like this amazing contrast to Willie because Trev's got, a Hawaiian shirt or a bowling shirt and all these things he wears. But, Willie's he's always wearing a tie. And even when they have their Halloween party, he's got a full suit on and all this sort of stuff. And
is Trevor retired? Is that why he's in that mode?
I'm going to guess so. Anyway, it's just handy to have a little contrast with the characters there and all that sort of stuff. And of course, Willie doesn't smoke, so there we go. Now, at this halfway point, Steve, in the episode of Alf, I want to address the question of how the hell Alf can manage to, within just a few hours, move an entire room of heavy furniture on his own, clean the entire house, cook a very complex multi-course breakfast, and paint a fence without waking the family. Now, as far as I know, and I haven't watched a hell of a lot of Alf. There's 100 episodes. I watched maybe 15, but I'm not aware if he has any special powers or anti-grav devices or time-slowing devices. So I don't know how he got that done. Now, I'm not expecting logic or anything from a kid's sitcom, but I'm just thinking, oh, well, I'll see if he's capable of doing all this. Did any of this occur to you or not really?
Well, I just think that's one of the hilarious things about the show. The fact that he manages to get all these things done with nobody noticing.
No. Because we, in a minute, I'm about to mention that we see him waxing the floor, and he's not doing it with any super speed stuff. He's just literally, it'd take him an hour to do. So how did he get all that other stuff done? Okay. We're nearly there, Steve, because the action skips ahead about a week-ish to Alf's last day of the deal. So it seems everything's gone really well. Like he's still working hard, and as I mentioned a minute ago, he's waxing the floor for the millionth time, and we see the family around the breakfast table. But they're much less chipper than last time. We're about to find out why, because young Lynn, she says, look, why don't we have anything else to drink, Mum, except Perrier? And Kate explains, look, Alf gets it at cost from the French embassy.
That's hilarious.
I took her seriously until I realised I think she was joking. But again, we don't know what Alf's connections are, because you see him on the phone in other episodes, and he's got all these relationships with people over the phone.
Yep.
He probably does get it delivered at cost from the French embassy on Willie's card.
Just put it on their card. No problem.
Yes, well, anyway, but they've all been served some beautiful, delicious, fancy eggs Florentine. But instead of tucking into that, because Kate's had enough at this point in time, so she just starts peeling this orange and she puts the peel off to one side, and we just see silently Alf hover into view and delicately brush the peel off the table into his dustpan. Yeah, it is classic. It's beautiful. And then you think it's all over, and then he gets his brush and he's just delicately brushing bits off off Willie's sleeve. And
that's the kind of thing. That's the kind of small detail that must have just taken them forever to get that kind of thing sorted out.
Yeah,
because the person doing the hand would have to be going one way, and
yes, they would.
The person
too.
with the face would have to be doing this on the same page.
I hadn't thought of that, so it wouldn't have been improv.
Well, it couldn't have been, right?
Oh, very good. Anyway, the family, it looks like they've had their limit of the helpful butler Alf. So Kate and Willie, they just go, listen, dude, you've won, the deal's done. You don't need to finish out the last few hours, it's all good. But he goes, nope, and he's got a surprising response, and here is a clip.
Now, why don't we just tell Alf that he's won?
Well, I'm for that. You've won.
Won, ma'am?
The bet is off. You can turn in your whisk broom and your phony accent and let out a big burp, and let's get on with it.
Yeah, let her rip.
What we're saying is, we want the old Alf back.
Please, I must insist that we follow this through. Isn't that one of the rules? To follow things through. Otherwise, we'd have chaos, and our life would be impossible.
All right, we're leaving. We'll see you at 6:14.
6:14?
6:14. That's when the sun goes down, and that means pledge week is over, and you can go back to being yourself.
Where are we gonna go?
Who cares, as long as it's someplace dirty. Goodbye, Al. Bye, Al.
See you after the metamorphosis.
You remember all the lines, Steve?
Yep, because I've watched it 3 or 4 times.
Yeah, brilliant. The callback to Willie's lecture about the rules from the beginning, I thought that was pretty nifty.
It was very good.
Because this episode's got a really simple plot.
Yep.
And I know you like complex plots, but at least they did something to sort of tie the end to the beginning and all that sort of stuff, you know. So I thought Steve might like that. Yeah, so we get that callback, and Alf decides while they're out to cook them a very nice duck à l'orange for the final posh dinner. Now, this was, you know, the rest of the family's gone, and Alf's like, you know, hang on, Willie. And he goes, Sir William.
Come over here.
Yeah. Come over here, Sir William. And he goes, would you like anything for the final, you know, and he goes, yeah, because he's looking around because he knows he's going to get in trouble if Kate hears him. And Willie says, well, actually, there's one thing she can't really do, and that's duck à l'orange. And then he loudly goes, and I don't want anything special for dinner, Alf. And Alf just goes, yeah, well, you can't see me doing the gesture, but yeah.
Alf says, would you like me to pair it with a haughty burgundy? Oh. He's like, oh, that'd be nice.
Yeah.
But, yeah, so what's the famous sitcom reference to duck à l'orange?
Faulty Towers?
Faulty Towers, yes.
Yeah. Do you reckon
one of the courses that goes wrong?
Yep.
Yeah.
I hadn't thought of that. I hadn't made that Faulty Towers connection. That's cool. Right. So the action does move ahead a few hours. Anyway, we get this, what I'm calling a subtly funny scene, where Alf's putting the final touches on the table setting, right? So all the best crockery's out there, all the best cutlery's out there. There's beautiful tablecloth that's all there. And you literally see Alf, you know, he's polishing the silver and stuff. Now, when we went through the cast, we didn't talk about Lucky the cat. I always do like to do the animals. But yeah, Lucky the cat's just chill. Because, you know, these are mortal enemies, right? So Alf eats cats on his home planet. Everyone does. They're cattle. So Alf's always trying to eat Lucky. And Lucky's just sitting there knowing that Alf's on best behaviour. And Lucky's a real cat, by the way, listener, if you haven't seen this show. And he's on the breakfast bar just watching Alf. And they're only about a foot away from each other. So this is quite unusual for a start. And it's brilliant because Alf just turns around to Lucky and he goes, well, you know, there's only a few, an hour or so to go. And he says, as soon as that happens at 6:14, I'm going to be on you like a buzzard on a gut wagon.
And then he turns around and says, have some wine. It'll slow down your reflexes.
It's the best.
Yeah, it's pretty classic.
I loved that. And it's such a great juxtaposition because it's everything super posh and he's been on his best behaviour. And while he's doing that, he's talking about basically savaging a
when
cat.
This time is over.
Like a scavenger on a carcass. Oh, man. It is a cool contrast with the visuals. But yeah, Alf's in his bow tie and he's been all snooty. And anyway, the old Alf's getting ready to come back. But he goes into the kitchen to get the duck out of the oven and it's still raw, Steve. But it turns out what he'd done is he'd turned the gas on, but he'd forgotten to light it. And he goes, well, no problem, dude. I'll just light it. And
yep. It's quite an impressive explosion.
It is.
We see it from the dining room angle.
And you see Alf fly out through the serving hatch at great speed.
Yep.
And thud up against the wall. And there's a big explosion. Anyway, so things haven't gone particularly right. And then again, we cut ahead in the action.
But before we do that,
yeah,
surely you're not going to miss an opportunity to reference Filthy Rich and Cat Flap.
Oh, dude, it
and
hadn't
then exploding
even occurred
oven.
to me. Oh, I should, give you some cash or something for bringing that up, Steve. That's brilliant. You deserve a prize of some sort. No, I hadn't thought of that.
Sitcom episodes with exploding ovens.
Yeah. And, of course, Cat Flap came out about 18 months before this.
Oh, well, that's where they got the idea
That's
from.
where they got the idea from, obviously. Thank you for opening the door there, Steve.
That's all right.
The oven door. Yeah, right. So anyway, we cut ahead in the action. We're at the end, and because what happened is the Tanner family comes home, and they just see Trevor sitting on their couch. And I assume he's very kindly looked after their house so looters don't come in, because the fire brigade have been, and they've had to break down the door, and there's just crap everywhere, and the kitchen's exploded. So they say, thank you, Trevor, and off Mr. Ocmonic goes. And Lynn is sent to go and find Alf, and she brings Alf back into the room, and they just go, this is ridiculous. What happened?
But the really funny part is that when Lynn brings Alf back in, she says that she found him hiding in the dryer with Nan's rosaries. So basically, he was praying in the dryer. He was going to survive the homecoming.
Yeah. Anyway, Alf, he because he is so hardcore about finishing the deal, and he feels like he's had a major fall at the final hurdle, and he offers to turn himself in to the alien task force, which, as they established the season before, means probably total death. But yes, they take pity on Alf and they reassure him that he can stay, but they've got a lot of cleaning up to do, and that's pretty much the end. As I've said here, that's the end of this little morality play, except for a meaningless closing scene that we won't bother with Steve dealing with the flamingos. It doesn't even end on a laugh. It's really weird.
No.
But that's all's well that ends well.
Morning, ma'am.
Alf, it's your last day. There's no need to wax the floor again.
I'm free at the moment, and I've finished shortening your dresses.
You shortened my dresses?
Well, they are showing higher hemlines this year. Excuse me, ma'am, but the wax isn't dry yet. If you must go into the kitchen, I'll have to carry you.
Thank you. I'll walk.
And I shall now hand over to you.
Well, the first thing I'd like to mention is this line that you skipped over in that little bit when so they're kind of interrogating Alf about what's happened, and they say, "Didn't you smell the gas?" And he says, "At the time, I thought it was dill." On the duck à l'orange, I guess.
Does dill smell like gas?
I don't know. I wouldn't have thought so.
Okay.
But it was pretty funny.
Now, before we get on to any final thoughts, Steve, and wrap this enormous episode up, I just want to talk with you about great aliens in sitcoms, but limited to being based on Earth, because obviously there's aliens in space-based sitcoms, no problem there, but we're not talking about them because it's that great how do the aliens adjust to life on Earth thing, and I thought there were going to be heaps. So, off the top of your head, how many can you think of?
Aliens coming to Earth.
Yeah.
Ooh, my favourite Martian.
Mm-hmm.
Third Rock from the Sun.
Mm-hmm. That's where I stopped.
No. What about the hero one from the UK? Isn't he a...
Oh, my hero. Oh, Steve, you're killing it. Yeah, George.
Yeah.
George Sunday, which we covered in Sitcom Showdown, whatever it was.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Brilliant. So he's an alien that, like his race, or the planet he comes from, they have the
Ultron.
form of a... They have the form of a human, do they? Or did he...
Yep.
Okay. There you go. I mean, there's definitely others out there, but I just can't remember what they are.
Well, you outdid me because I just came up with Third Rock and My Favourite Martian, and that was it. So I'm highly impressed. I consider Third Rock to be the gold standard of this sort of thing.
Of this subgenre.
Yeah. The awkwardness as they're not trained in tact and diplomacy, so they just brutally honest to people. And we've got a great example clip of Third Rock.
What is my thesis doing out of my desk?
Oh, I took it out.
My desk was locked.
Which made it very difficult to open. You might want to make a note of that.
You read it?
Read it. I memorized it.
Well, it's just a few thoughts.
A few brilliant thoughts.
Really? Well, that's quite a compliment coming from someone with your credentials. I'm glad you enjoyed it.
Enjoyed it? It's the funniest thing I've ever read. Your theory on man and the animal within, it's hilarious. Nina said you had no sense of humor. She is so wrong. The conclusions that you draw are laugh out loud funny.
Yeah, Alf, he's kind of weird in a way because in a lot of episodes he's better at doing Earth stuff than Willie and Kate and the kids, you know what I mean? So he can get on the phone to someone and totally charm them, and it's like he knows a shitload about Earth. And then in other episodes, he's really ignorant to stuff and he puts his foot in it. So I think it depends on what the writer needs at the time as to whether Alf is better than the humans he lives with or way worse than the humans he lives with.
Because that was one of the really funny contrasts that I saw in this episode, is that he understands our Earth culture to minute detail, like he basically successfully pretends to be a butler.
Yeah. He
For
can
a whole
pair
week,
wines
he can
with food.
Pair wines with food. He can make complicated meals and
strike deals with the French embassy.
Paint fences and all sorts of... He's got no end of skills.
Yeah.
And then when it comes to the most basic things of interpersonal skills and relationships. He's completely ham-fisted, so
Yeah.
that's kind of funny how he's really good at one but not the other.
True. Yeah, it's inconsistent, but, as long as it ends up in funny jokes,
Yeah.
so be it. When you've got aliens on Earth, you can have a sitcom that's completely grounded in reality, but they can use their alien technology or whatever inborn skills they have to get around that.
Yep.
So you're not... If it's done well, you don't question it, I guess is what I'm trying to say. Oh, by the way, Steve, Mork and Mindy.
Oh.
Dude.
Oh, how could you overlook that?
Yeah, I forgot about Mork and Mindy. I haven't watched any of that since we had it on TV in the 80s. Yeah, anyway, so there's Mork, obviously, and you brought up George Sunday. Roger the alien from American Dad. I don't know if we're counting animated shows or not, but he's just flat out evil. But Roger can do anything, and it's great for the show because nothing is impossible. But he's not very likable, Roger. He's completely evil, whereas Alf is lovely. Yeah, sorry about the ramble there. So do you have any final thoughts, Steve, before I give some final thoughts?
No, I just mentioned one of them. I can just quickly reel off my other few things if you like.
Brilliant.
I like the way that Max Wright gets down to Alf's level on a couple of occasions in this episode. I think when he visits the garage, and then as they're kind of conspiring about the duck à l'orange on the way out the door. I think the puppet's expressions are really cool. The way he scrunches up his nose and all these sorts of things. And now you've told me that the parts of the puppet are being operated by different people. It makes it even more impressive. So that's really good. I like how Kate's nose was put out of joint because Alf was so good at the cooking and cleaning. I just thought he's like a kid. He breaks your stuff. He drives you crazy, but you still love him.
Very much so. Yeah, maybe that's why it was popular. Because he serves both functions, We all like a rebel, but also he makes their lives better and stuff.
Yep.
When he's not destroying the place, which he often does.
Yeah, so adding a reasonable level of anarchy or chance or randomness to the house was probably a good thing.
I reckon so, yes.
What have you got in your summing up notes?
Well, I'll tell you in a minute, but did you want to mention anything about watching the extra episodes you watched, or one of your kids wanting to watch more episodes?
I made some of the kids watch it with me.
Yeah,
and one of them in particular grumbled about watching it and was saying, "Oh, I don't think this is funny," but he's since gone back and watched another 7 or 8 episodes himself. So he's saying, "Dad, come and watch some Alf with me." So
excellent. Would he be around Benji, the youngest Tanner son's age?
Oh, yeah, I would think so. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. So it's going down well with some parties in the household.
Yeah. Thought it would fit his sense of humour because Alf's, a bit of a cheeky chops. And he's a bit like that, so.
Very good. Oh, cool. What I like in this episode, Steve, though, is that Alf actually does it, right? So he takes the family seriously. He tries hard. He values them. And on this occasion, he wants to prove it. And he sticks with it the whole way along. And I found that after... since there's been another nearly 40 years, because it was around this time Married with Children came on the scene and flipped everything on its head. And then it's since become very fashionable for sincerity to be completely abandoned. And so Alf actually does it. Whereas I think if they were doing it today or over the last 20 years, he would find some way to welch on the deal or cheat or do something. And it's all snarkiness,
Yep.
So I thought it was cool. And he does his best, and the family could see that. And so after things did go wrong, they cut him a break. And I think they missed his wisecracking, mischievous side and became a bit tired of the subservient, high-achieving Alf because he's taken over Kate's kitchen. They can't walk on their own floors. And in fact, one of the gags we didn't put in is he goes, "Oh, ma'am, if you're going to go to the kitchen, I'm afraid I'm going to have to carry you." And then she gets to the kitchen, she goes, "No, thank you, I'll walk." And then Benj is there, and he goes, "Oh, Mum, didn't you get a piggyback off Al?" I didn't feel like it. So that was pretty funny. So he's taken over their territory, and he's keeping it so clean, they're not allowed to do diddly. Yes, anyway, even Brian gets fed up because he's getting fancy quiche every day for lunch.
Yeah, no one's going to swap with him.
Yeah, and the novelty's wearing off. But yes, I think that's what I liked about this episode. And the show as a whole... it has a lot of heart and a surprising amount of good jokes. And when Alf is written right, he's a classic character. And I've massively enjoyed watching them again. I mean, there's some crap ones, obviously. And the other thing is I've grown to... I remember when I was young not liking Willie at all because I thought he was a bit of a spineless wuss. And, you know, remember at this sort of stage, you know, the male role models were your bloody Stallones and Schwarzeneggers and all these sorts of guys. Yep. And then you've got Willie Tanner, who appears to be, from my point of view at the time, a total pushover. But he's not, man. He's. I've watched lots of episodes now, and that's not how he operates. It's just that he is firm and he is decisive. He's not a pushover, but the way he enforces stuff is so calm and so rational that you sort of almost don't realise he's doing it.
He's using his social worker tricks.
Oh, dude, I hadn't thought of that. He is using his social worker tricks. Or techniques, perhaps. Yes. Tricks is a bit... It's got negative
connotations.
Apologies
to the social workers out there.
That's right. But the whole show, Steve, it's just very wholesome, except for Alf, who's a cheeky man. But he makes their lives better, and they look after him through all the wild stuff. And yeah, I just dug it, man. So, yes, I mean, I hope you've enjoyed revisiting Alf.
It was definitely a walk down memory lane, and an enjoyable one. Thanks for that.
No worries. Now, dare I ask, would you have put this into the Hall of Fame or not really? No, because it's not plot heavy, is it?
Shaking my head.
Good gags, but it's not 5-star.
Yeah, and I felt like that last scene, like you said, which really should, you know, definitely put the cherry on top of the whole thing. It was just really flat.
Totally unnecessary.
Yeah, we could have had
something good.
30 seconds of something else in the middle of the episode or something. I don't know.
I agree. Now, Steve, I had put it to you that in order to give you the Christmas episode, that I cover next time as well. Does that sit well with you?
Sure.
All right, so I'll tell the listener what's going to be coming up because it's a request,
right?
And I'll give you more details, dear listener, on the request when we reach there, but it's going to be Hanging with Mr. Cooper.
Right, okay. I don't know this at all.
Oh, Steve, you've never watched
I knew that you were going to do this, but I don't know that sitcom at all. So
okay, yes, because that's your 90s, getting into your 90s time.
Right.
I'm looking forward to that, and in fact, I watched it, and I've been enjoying getting into some Coops.
Right, okay.
Coops and his hoops.
Coops and hoops.
Yeah, there's a lot of hoops with Coops.
Right.
Because he's a basketball coach.
Oh, nice.
So I'm digging it. So we'll see how that goes, and it's always nice to respond to a listener request.
Yes.
All right. So ta-ta, everybody, and we shall catch you next time.
Yes, we will. See ya.
Bye. Join us next time on Sitcom Showdown when we'll be putting another 5-star episode under the microscope. And in the meantime, you can contact us with feedback on Facebook, Twitter @Sitcom Showdown, or by email sitcomshowdown@gmail.com.